Hey everybody, and welcome to Sight Reading Level 4. The fun example, the 6/8 example, the one that's different rhythmically. We just finished last week Level 3. Hopefully you watched that video because that's the minor one. Kind of like Level 3, this one is out there a little bit in comparison to Levels 1 and 2. Because this one, unlike being melodically challenging, which Level 3 is because it's in minor, is rhythmically challenging because it's in 6/8. It's our only compound time signature example. And that can be something that a lot of people find really easy. It can also be something that a lot of people find really hard. It just kind of depends on how you feel comfortable with rhythms. Are you really good at rhythms? Do you feel pretty good about rhythms? Okay with rhythms? Are you like, dude, I can do pitches all day, but rhythms are hard? Or I'm good in simple time signatures, but as soon as you put me in compound, I lose it. Well, this video is for you. So let's start by looking, of course, at our guidelines for Level 4. As you can see, like we just talked about, this is the compound time example. All of them are in 6/8, maybe 9/8, maybe 12/8, but I'll tell you the audition excerpt will be in 6/8. It's not going to be anything more complicated than that. It features all of the previous rhythms of the other examples, but it also adds dotted 8th, 16th patterns. The examples are in the key of D major or G major. So either D is Do or G is Do. And of course, it's in 6/8 time signature. Let's go ahead and look at the task/practice section next. This is the same as it has been, but just again, for your review, you should first establish your key. This is an example 4, so it's major. If you have access to a keyboard or PitchPipe app or those YouTube videos I posted, use them. If not, just pick a key that's comfortable in your voice range. Doesn't really matter. This is back to being major, so you're all comfortable singing Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti, Do, etc. Then isolate any hard features and then try and perform them by themselves. Weirdly, this one, in my opinion, doesn't really have anything you haven't done before except the time signature itself. So we're going to spend some time kind of looking at things in 6/8 in a minute. And then, of course, once you've practiced everything individually, you should practice the whole thing. Try running the example after you've practiced individual spots. Now, let's look at Level 4 example number 11. I picked this one because it's got all the features in it. There are some skips, there's some dotted 8th, 16th patterns in there, and of course, it's in 6/8 time. First, let's look at the key. We have 1 sharp, which means we are in G major. We are, of course, in 6/8 time, which is right after the key signature, but we're going to focus mainly right now on the pitches. First of all, the only thing that's really terribly weird about this pitch-wise to me is that if this example is in G major, which it could be, it's going to be high. It's going to feel like it's in a really, really high key. So when you sing your scale for G major, I'm not sitting in a keyboard, but it's somewhere in the neighborhood of right there. Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti, Do. You're going to end up having to sing quite high in your scale. Does that mean that you should change the key? Well, we talked about it. You can. That's an option. That's certainly a thing you can do. But before you are tempted to change keys for something like this that's in G major, look at the range of the entire piece and then make your decision. So like looking at this example, if I had to sing Do to high Do, I would probably move it. Well, I don't want to sing high Do all day long. That's way too high. But looking at the range of this piece, we go up to a B, there's a C. Okay, in the second system, we go up to a D natural, which for me isn't really a stretch. Maybe for some of you it might be, so that might be something that makes you think like, yeah, you know what, I'm going to move this. But for me, D natural is no big deal, so I'm not going to move this. I'm going to keep it in the same key. I just have to bear in mind in my warm-up, yeah, okay, I'm going to sing all the way up to high Do. It's going to feel really high. I'm probably going to have to sing really lightly or in falsetto, or I might crack. But once I sing the example, it'll be no problem because it's not in that big a range. The reason I tell you mainly to be careful about moving keys in this example is you'll see people who will see the key of G and will just automatically assume that they need to move it down. Well, if it steps down to low So or low Mi and you moved it down far enough, well, you might not be able to sing it anymore. So be careful when you move keys. Look at the entire example before you decide to. But anyway, we're not going to move this key. We're just going to sing it in whatever's comfortable for me today because, again, I'm not sitting at a keyboard. So let's figure out what that Do is. It starts on Do, as we know, so let's label that as we just did. So G is Do. We're starting on Do. And now that we've done that, let's go through and box all the skips. Okay, there's 2 big sets of skips. One in measure 3 to start the measure, and then one in measures 6 and 7. I've kind of boxed 6 and 7 together because it pretty much just skips all the way through. You can think of the first 3 notes in measure 6 as a skip, and then you can think of the one going from 6 into 7 as a skip, and then midway through 7. But it's all skippy, so I just I boxed the entire thing. Your next step, as you know by now, if you've been watching all the videos, or if you don't know, but your next step is to label these pitches, label the skips. If you want to pause the video now and try that on your own, you're welcome to. Or if you don't want to, here is what those skips are. As we can see in the first system, first skip is from mi down to do. And then looking at the second system, we have do up to mi up to so. We have a repeated so after a rest, and then back down to mi, back down to do. Not too bad. In fact, compared to the minor, I think this is pretty easy. It just goes back to what we're used to doing. So as we've been doing with every other example, let's go ahead and put ourselves in the key and sing those skips in isolation. There's do, or the one I'm going to use today. I don't know if it's actually G, but let's pretend. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, la, so, fa, mi, re, do. Do, mi, so, mi, do, ti, do. Now let's look at that first skip. As we see, it starts on mi. If I have my arpeggio in my head, I might just be able to sing mi, which I can. Mi. But if I wasn't able to find that, remember, you can either just sing your arpeggio again and see if you can pop that mi out, or step up to it from do. So sing do, re, mi, which is that pitch. Once I've got that pitch settled, sing back on down to do. Mi, do. If I have trouble finding that, as I would do with everything else, sing the arpeggio. Do, mi, so, mi, do. And then sing mi, do a little louder with more attention to what those pitches actually are. Since I've done that, I know, first arpeggio, mi, do. Let's look at the second one on the next system. We have do, mi, so, mi, do. At first, that looks kind of daunting because it's skipping all over the place, and you're thinking, man, I have to go all the way up and then all the way back down. That's crazy. Well, it's just an arpeggio twice. One is an ascending arpeggio, and then one of them is a descending arpeggio, where you don't sing high do. So instead of thinking of that as, man, that's just a mess, what's all those skips, think, okay, it starts on do, next is mi, so, then the same arpeggio in reverse. So, mi, do. So back to back. Do, mi, so, mi, do. Really not that big a deal. You just have to think, okay, it's just 2 arpeggios with no high do. And then sing your warm-up or just sing it like it's a warm-up. Sing do, mi, so. And then so, mi, do. Now that we've boxed those, just like we've done for every other video, let's go ahead and sing it without any rhythm. We'll go pitch by pitch. Now, before we actually look at this, you've probably already noticed by now, this is 2 separate systems. Almost all of the 6/8 examples are in 2 separate systems because you usually have more notes in 6/8 because of the added number of eighth notes you can have in a measure. I'm taking a little pause when I go through this in a moment just to kind of get my eyes down to the next system. One of the things that you're going to have to be wary of when you do the rhythm is that you need to practice moving your eyes from the first system to the second system. I've had students who stop after those first 4 measures and look at me like, I did the whole thing, and they don't realize there's a second system to it. So when we go through it rhythmically, practice moving your eyes down from the first system to the second system kind of quickish. But for this, I'll take a little pause and then start again at the second system. But anyway, I still have my do in my head, so I'm going to go ahead and sing through this. Here we go. Do, re, mi, re, do, re, mi, fa, mi, do, re, mi, re. Pause. Do, re, mi, re, do, mi, so, mi, do, re, mi, re, do. Relatively straightforward. I think I forgot to leave a pause for that 8th note in the next system, so sorry about that at home, but it's not that bad. I mean, if you look at this like a level 2, I think this is easier, if anything, than the average level 2 is melodically. There's not that many skips, and the skips that are in this, they're pretty easy. It's do, mi, so, mi, do, repeated, or do to mi, or mi to do, something pretty straightforward and manageable. So I think the rhythm is going to really be what gets us more on this. So let's start digging into that now. As we said already, this is in 6/8 time, which, as we might remember from class, is a compound time signature. You say there's 6 beats in a measure and the eighth note gets the beat, or you might hear people say it's a compound time signature with 2 beats, because even though it's counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you feel 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So your answers might vary, but for now, let's count it as though it's 6 beats per measure and the eighth note gets the beat. So, as with our other videos, let's label the rhythmic values first. So we have a dotted quarter equals 3 beats. Next, we have quarter, which equals 2 beats in this time signature, because remember, the eighth note gets the beat. Dotted eighths are a beat and a half, because an eighth note gets the beat, so a dot on top of that is 1.5 beats. An eighth note, as we already said, gets 1 beat, and 16th notes, which we've added in this example, get a half of a beat. Because remember, in 6/8 time, an eighth note gets a beat, half of an eighth is a 16th, so half of 1 beat is a half a beat. So that's how we would count this. Now, let's go ahead and put in some counts. But wait, controversy coming in now. There are different ways of counting 6/8. And I'm going to go with probably the most common one first, and the way that makes the most sense to most people in my experience. But it's not the one that I use. First of all, I labeled everything in this example as though it was in 6/8 time signature, with 6 beats in a measure and the eighth note getting a beat. So as you can see in the first measure, I put 1, 2, T, 4. It's a dotted eighth. So the 16th is and then beat 6 is counted as beat 6. Next measure, 1, 2, T, 4. Measure after that, 1. Because that's a quarter note, it's got beat 2, the second eighth note in that quarter note, so we have T, followed by 4, 5, 6. And then the last measure on the first system, the dotted quarter note, which is worth 3/8 or 3 beats, so 1 sustained for 3 beats, and then quarter rest, worth another 3 beats of rest. Second system, we have the same measure rhythmically to start us out, 1, 2, T, 4, and 6. The next measure, we have 1, T, 4, 6. Second to last measure, we have 2 dotted quarters. So that's 3 beats first note, 3 beats second note. So you'd hold 1 for 3 beats and then hold 4 for 3 beats. And the last measure, 1, 2, T, 4, held for 3 beats. This is a really straightforward way of counting this example. And I'm going to go ahead, in fact, and sing through this on these counts. Take a listen. 1, 2, 3, ready, and 1, 2, T, 4, and 6, 1, 2, T, 4, 1, T, 4, 5, 6, 1. 1, 2, T, 4, and 6, 1, T, 4, 6, 1, 4, 1, 2, T, 4. Makes sense. Now, what you can't see in there is that as a singer and as a person, I'm struggling anytime I have to count higher than 4. I don't know if it's just because I practice singing in 4/4 so much or because I'm just not good at math or whatever, but as I went through that, had to consciously think, okay, what's the next count? And 6, and 5, 4, 1, 2, T, 4, 5, 6. It's kind of hard for me to keep track of the counts. Well, there are 2 counting systems I'm about to show you that make that a little easier, in my opinion. They're going to be confusing at first. So if you're easily confused or you feel comfortable about what you've seen now, go ahead and skip ahead in the video and don't watch this. Okay. And red and blue are 2 different counting systems, each accounting for the fact that people struggle counting above 4 in music. Let's look at the red one first, which is the middle of the 2. In this system of counting, the argument is made that, well, in 6/8 time, everything is divided into units of 3. You have 2 different units of 3. In fact, if you look at the bars in these example, the first 3 notes are barred together and the second 3 notes are barred together because you feel it as though it's in 3. 1, 2, T, 4, 5, 6. So people who count using this method count it as though it's just 2 3 measures, or rather 2 measures of 3 in each measure. So they would count measure 1, 1, 2, T, 1, and T, as though instead of 1 measure of 6/8, it was 2 measures of 3/8. Let's look at another measure. Look at measure 8, the last measure. You can see again 1, 2, T for the first 3/8 notes, and then 1 repeated for the last note, the dotted quarter in that measure. That's to show that basically every measure is just two equally divided halves of 3. You have 3/8 notes on one side and 3/8 notes on the other side. Just count them as 2 units of 3. 1, 2, T, 1, 2, T. If you had one full measure of 8th notes in this example, you would count it 1, 2, T, 1, 2, T. I like this example this way of counting because it simplifies things. It's harder to get lost. You think 1, 2, T the entire time, and you're probably going to be at least close to being right. Things I don't like about this is it's easier to get lost in the grand scheme of things because I can't remember which beat I'm on necessarily. It's hard to keep track of, okay, am I on beat 1 in the compound meter or beat 2? Am I on the big pulse? Am I on the second pulse? Where am I? This blue example tries to address that a little bit. Instead of singing 1, 2, T, 1, 2, T, like we did in the red counting system, this one argues, well, there are 2 units of 3 in each measure. So let's count them 1, 2, T, 2, 2, T. Like so. 1, 2, T, 2, 2, T. This method is a little bit more common than the method in red. Probably still not as common as the method in black, but helps a lot of people who think of this as a bigger, grander scheme of things rather than as actually 6 beats in a measure and the 8th note gets the beat. The first measure, of course, would be counted 1, 2, T, 2, and T. Another helpful way of using this counting system is when you are in other compound meters, like 9/8 or 12/8. So instead of counting 1, 2, T, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 in 12/8, you'd count 1, 2, T, 2, 2, T, T, 2, T, 4, 2, T, because they're basically just 4 beats in a measure divided into 3. I would say, in my personal experience, most people just don't bother counting in compound time signatures, followed by people who count using system number 1, followed by people who count using this blue system. I don't encounter people who count in the red system very frequently. When they do, it's usually just because they don't know how to count in 6/8, so they just kind of go 1, 2, T, 1, 2, T, 1, 2, T over and over again. Which system should you use? Really, honestly, it's up to you. I would practice all of them and see which one you like the best and which one kind of flows easiest. Maybe start with the black and then try and incorporate the blue. And if you have trouble with the blue, look at the red. In my opinion, when I count, I use the blue. That's easy to me. It's helpful for me to keep track of which beat I'm on. But is that something I absolutely have to do? Could I use something else? Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't matter. You don't have to use any counts if you don't want. You could just count straight da, 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 da. That doesn't matter. These are just helpful systems for you to use. So let's read through the rhythm here in a second, and I'm going to do it using all 3 counting systems. The rhythm itself will not change. The only thing that's going to change as I go through this is the counts. So here we go. I'll start with black, and then red, and then blue. 1, 2, T, ready, and 1, 2, T, 4, and 6, 1, 2, T, 4, 1, T, 4, 5, 6, 1. 1, 2, T, 4, and 6, 1, T, 4, 6, 1, 4, 1, 2, T, 4. Here's the red system. 1, 2, T, ready, and 1, 2, T, 1, and T, 1, 2, T, 1, 1, 2, T, 1, 2, T, 1, 1, 2, T, 1, and T, 1, T, 1, T, 1, 1, 1, 2, T, 1. And finally, the blue system. 1, 2, T, ready, and 1, 2, T, 2, and T, 1, 2, T, 2, 1, T, 2, 2, T, 1, 1, 2, T, 2, and T, 1, T, 2, T1, 2, 1, 2, T2. Tricky. So which one of those, again, should you use? I don't know. I would use whichever one you're best at, whichever one you get the rhythms the most right in. Probably for most of you now, that's going to be the black example, or maybe red. I don't know. Maybe blue. It could be any of them. Maybe it's just singing Da for now. Maybe you just skip over example 4 because the rhythm is too frustrating and confusing for you and complicated. My suggestion would be, though, try it. Try and stick to one. Try and figure one out that makes sense to you on some level and read that as much as you can, because the more you do it, the easier it will be. When I first started, reading in this blue system was confusing. Why do you count 2 twice? Sometimes you count 2, 2T. That doesn't make any sense. Well, once I realized it's accounting for the larger feeling of beat that you get in compound meter, it made a lot more sense. Because instead of thinking eighth, 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 you feel beat subdivision, which feels more natural to me, and which is how most 6/8 music is actually performed. So just try it and stick with it. Let's see what happens. And you never know. You might just get better and find out something that you enjoyed that you didn't think you enjoyed. Anyway, enough talking about the rhythm for 6/8. Let's sing through the entire example. I'm going to go back to solfege because that's what I'm the most comfortable with, but if you feel more comfortable with the counts, or you're like, well, by golly, by gosh, I've practiced this so much, I'm going to use the counts because it would be a waste of me not to count it. Well, fine, it doesn't matter, but I am going to stick to solfege for now. Let's reestablish our key because I forgot it. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, la, so, fa, mi, re, do. Do, mi, so, mi, do, ti, do. And our starting pitch is do. All the way through example 11. 1, 2, T, ready, and do, re, mi, fa, mi, do, re, mi, re. Do, re, mi, re, do, mi, so, mi, do, re, mi, re, do. Waltzy. All right, let's finish this thing up by looking at some tips and tricks for this level. First of all, as I said before, experiment with different counting systems and also different tempos. When I started reading in 6/8, I found out I was really good at it if I read it really, really slowly, or weirdly, a little bit faster, because I feel it as 2 different beats, not as 6. So once I sped it up to the point where I could feel 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that actually felt a little bit easier for me, strangely. So try playing around with the tempo, not just the different counting systems. And again, if you find that you like black or blue or red better, then use the one that you like the best. Once you do decide on one, though, and you feel relatively comfortable with it and you've practiced it a bunch, stick with it. Even if it's confusing at first, even if you go through it and it's like, man, I can't get the hang of this. Keep trying. Keep getting used to it. Practice singing measures of just eighth notes. 1, 2, T, 2, 2, T, 1, 2, T. Do that as you walk around your house to the day. Waltz to it, dance to it. Find a way to get that system or whatever system you use ingrained into your brain. Next, think about the time signature and what you see before you sing anything. How does 6/8 feel? The big struggle people have with this is, again, the big shift between simple time signatures, 1 and 2 and T and, to compound ones, 1, 2, T, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, T. They have a very different feel about them. It feels like all triplets in a simple time signature. So before you sing anything, before you look at this and think, okay, what am I about to do? What's happening? What's going on? Let's just do this thing. Scale. Here we go. Think, okay, this is the one that's in compound. And then think, 1, 2, T, 4, 5, 6, or 1, 2, T, 1, 2, T, or 1, 2, T, 2, 2, T, and kind of get yourself ready to see that time signature. And of course, practice counting more than the melody. This is really the same difficulty-wise, melody-wise, as level 2, as I think I already said. Level 2, in fact, is probably even a little harder because it kind of tends to go overboard on the skips. This is not that bad skip-wise. There's do, mi, so. So mi do, maybe a high do in there, maybe a low so in there, but it's all the same skips at least that you had in level 2. So practice counting more than you would practice the melody on level 4. Now, I'm not saying if you don't have melody down and you're like, oh, I don't have it at this point, I'll just keep going. He said don't practice the melody. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, all things being equal, if you feel just as good about the melody and just as good about the rhythm, and you're looking at level 4 from a how much should I practice this perspective and what should I practice the rhythm, because the rhythm is what's different about this one. The 6/8 time signature is harder to get used to, in my opinion, than the simple time signature is. In fact, I think more people struggle with coming into 6/8 than they do with adding skips. But that's just my opinion, and that's not everybody, of course. And as with anything, don't move on until you're ready to do so. If you make a mistake, loop back, simplify, try it again. Don't just skip over it and say, I'm sure it'll be fine. It's no big deal. Work that out. Break it down. Fix it. All right. This has been level 4. This video is a little longer than I thought, but hey, whatever it takes. This one, in my experience, is the one that most people have questions about. So if you feel yourself as you practice this like, man, I just don't understand that counting thing. That was confusing. Or man, I can't get the feeling of this, or I just don't have this down, please feel free to email me or set up an office hours appointment with me and let's get working on this. I'm happy to talk to you about this. I was talking to a student in office hours the other day, and once I played a couple examples of music for her in compound time signatures, it made sense. It just popped into her brain. Oh, this is the one that feels like waltzes. And all of a sudden she could read a lot better. And it may be as simple as that for you, but I don't know unless you talk to me. So if you have any issues, let me know, and I'm happy to address them or make another video. I think I've said that before too, but I'll do that if you want me to. Anyway, hope you had a good day. Hope you're going to continue to have a good day. Soon we'll tackle level 5, maybe before the end of the week, maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, happy sight reading.